When a star-shaped portal shatters reality in a modern Marvel comic, you know exactly who is stepping through it. America Chavez has spent the last decade cementing herself as the definitive Miss America, using her multiverse-spanning powers to punch her way to the top of the pop culture landscape. But Chavez is actually the final link in an 80-year chain. The name she carries has been passed down through a nearly forgotten lineage of women. Keeping a superhero alias alive for that long requires navigating decades of comic book history. This specific legacy survived corporate buyouts, changing publishers, in-universe tragedies, and massive generational shifts in what audiences actually wanted to read. This timeline maps out our chronological journey. To understand how we arrived at a multiverse-hopping powerhouse, we have to travel back to 1941 and examine the 4 distinct women who wore the mantle. Tracking this single superhero name provides a surprisingly clear lens. By watching the character adapt, we can watch the entire comic book industry evolve over a century. In 1941, Quality Comics, a publisher that would eventually be absorbed by DC, created the very first iteration, Joan Dale. Debuting in the pages of military comics, Dale engaged in a highly specific brand of Golden Age heroism. Instead of battling cosmic entities, she fought terrestrial threats, hunting down saboteurs and spies operating on American soil. She accomplished this by living a double life. Rather than operating as a purely flashy vigilante, Dale worked undercover as a highly resourceful assistant to the FBI, grounding her stories in the massive scale of government administration that defined the era. This lore breakdown shows how deeply she integrated into the broader DC universe. Looking at her team affiliations and FBI connections, we see she regularly joined forces with legendary wartime groups like Bislitters and the Justice Society of America. By rooting her identity in patriotism and intelligence work, Joan Dale established a very human, grounded baseline for the legacy. 2 years later, in 1943, Timely Comics, the company that would eventually become Marvel, decided to introduce their own completely separate character with the exact same name, Madeline Joyce. Her origin story leaned heavily into 1940s pulp science. Joyce was a socially aware heiress who gained her abilities when a freak lightning strike surged through an experimental electrical testing array she was investigating. This profile details the drastic leap into superhuman territory. The accident granted her unassisted flight and what the comics officially classified as the strength of 1,000 men. This publication record tracks a bizarre evolution. Marvel pivoted her from fighting alongside the invaders to starring in her own teen romance and lifestyle magazine. Her life ended in tragedy, passing away from childbirth complications linked to severe radiation exposure at Wundagore Mountain. Madeline Joyce took a grounded wartime spy and turned her into a high-concept sci-fi epic. Her death permanently embedded the mantle into Marvel history. Fast forward to 2008. Marvel launched the 50-State Initiative, a storyline where superhero teams were treated as corporate franchises assigned to specific states across the country. This character dossier introduces Erica Kelly. Drafted into Pennsylvania's team, the Libertines, she served as a direct tribute to Madeline Joyce. As the origin notes show, Marvel gave her an identical visual design and an exact copy of the WW2 Heroes power set. But the historical weight of the original hero proved too heavy. Kelly ultimately rejected the tribute, abandoning the name entirely to rebrand herself as Miss Fantastics. Kelly's decision highlights the difficulty of stepping into a historical shadow. Her brief tenure proves a name as heavy as Miss America requires more than a visual callback. It needs a distinct reason to exist today. Which brings us to 2011, when America Chavez successfully claims the title while fighting alongside the Young Avengers. The title has acted as a mirror for the industry's changing priorities. Joan Dale represents the grounded grit of 1940s espionage. Madeline Joyce tracks the pivot toward post-war romance and pulp sci-fi. Even Erica Kelly's short run serves as a snapshot of the corporate, franchise-driven storytelling of the 2000s. America Chavez steps in as the latest evolution. Her dimension-shattering powers align with the current narrative focus on the multiverse, turning the character into a cosmic-scale protector. A superhero alias does not survive for 8 decades by keeping the exact same costume or character profile. It survives by fluidly adapting to the anxieties, interests, and storytelling trends of whichever decade it lands in. From the Golden Age to the multiverse, the legacy continues. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more deep dives into comic book history.